Numerical 1. A strut in a steel truss is composed of two angles ISA 150 by 150 by 10 mm. So it is equal angle connected back to same side of gusset plate. The cross-sectional area of each angle is 2921 mm square. And moment of inertia about axis xx and yy is 633,500 mm/4. Since it is equal angle, so axis about both xx and yy moment of inertia is same. The centroidal distance cy and cx is 40.8 mm. Determine the radius of gyration. Let's look at the picture. See, we have connection like this. As I said, in roof truss, you remember in the truss may be either compression or a tension. If it is a compression member, then we have to follow the design procedure as given in IS 800-2007. In this picture, an angle is connected on either side of the gusset plate. If you look, one angle is connected to one side of the gusset plate and other angle is connected to other side of the gusset plate. So, but this is not what it has been given in our numerical. Here, the angle is connected back to back on same side of the gusset plate. So it is like this. Our connection is like this. Angle connected back to back on one side of the gusset plate, nothing on the other side. So this is how our connection, and this angle combined together acts as a single compression member. Now we need to determine what is the radius of gyration for this member. Let's see the given data. See, we have gusset plate, and angle connected back to back on same side of the gusset plate. Now this angle is ISA 150 by 150 by 10 mm. And it is given that the CG distance from this corner, centroidal distance, is 40.8. That means here is the axis. So from this corner, the axis is at a distance of 40.8. Since both are equal length on both the side, axis is at a distance of 40.8 mm. Now this is where the CG of the member lies, and this is axis XX and axis YY. Then the moment of inertia about axis XX and YY. Since it is equal angle, both the moment of inertia is same. 6.335 into 10 to the power 6 mm/4. See, here it is given as 635,000. So I have written 6.335 into 10 to the power 6 mm/4. And this Cx and the Cy centroidal distance is 40.8 mm. And the area of a single angle. See, we have angle, area of single angle is 2921 mm square. Okay, this is what given. We need to find out what is radius of gyration R. So here we need to find out R minimum, because that is where the buckling failure is going to happen. Whichever axis has the minimum radius of gyration or minimum moment of inertia, that is where the buckling is going to happen. So as far as column is concerned, we have to always identify where the minimum moment of inertia axis is and corresponding minimum radius of gyration. If we know that, then we can able to predict the axis on which the buckling is going to happen, and also the strength of the compression member in that axis. Okay, this is gusset plate, and this angle is ISA 150 upon 150 upon 10. Area of angle is 2921 mm square. And from this corner, the CG of the member lies at a distance of 40.8 mm. So on both the sides, axis lies at a distance of 40.8 mm. See, now this is the axis. Now this is the axis, small y, small y. Individual angles, axis. See, we have one and two angle. I am talking about only one angle. And this is the axis, xx. And this axis is also xx axis of the individual I section. Here is the CG of the member lines. Now we don't have individual angle section as a compression member. We have two angles attached together back to back on same side of the gusset plate. This acts as a compression member combined together. Don't include the strength of gusset plate for calculating the strength of compression member, because gusset plate is only there in the connection. It won't run throughout the length of the column. So we should not include the strength of gusset plate when you are calculating the strength of compression member. So here the compression member is only two angles back to back connected. So we know individual angles axis. So if you combine together, then what happens to the moment of inertia and the axis? Yes, the axis will shift. It won't be same. Suppose, for example, if I have a square, okay, now its axis lies here, xx and y. Since it is a square, so the axis lies at the mid distance of both the sides. Okay, with this member, if I connect same square, same size, square of same size with this. Now what happens to the moment of inertia in x and y direction? Here in y direction the axis remains same in the same line. But if you take the axis xx, it shifts to this point. Now this is the entire area. Now axis xx will shift here. Okay. So let me write this capital X and capital Y. This capital Y and the capital X is the global moment of inertia. Now X axis has shifted, not Y, because the member has added along the X axis. If you have done like this, if this is the area, and if you have added one more area to its right, then XX will remain at the same place and YY will shift from this point to this point. See, whatever the axis you want to shift, then you can add along the axis. Similarly, we have angle attached this way. So YY axis has shifted now to this point. Now this is the axis YY. So I am writing it in capital letter because it is the global axis. And also x remains at the same place for both angle. So here I am writing it as a capital XX, global moment of inertia. So to calculate the global moment of inertia about xx and yy, we have the equation Ixx is Ig, this is small xx, local moment of inertia about xx, plus ah square. Igxx is the xx moment of inertia of single angle section. which is 6.335 into 10 to the power 6 plus area of the member 2921 into h. Now what is this h? H is the distance between individual moment of inertia to the global moment of inertia. In axis xx, both individual and global lies at the same line. So there is no difference between xx small and capital XX, or local XX and global XX. So the h is 0. If the h is 0, the whole term becomes 0. So this is the global moment of inertia for only section 1. I have two sections. So if I multiply with 2, then I will get global moment of inertia about axis xx. And it comes out to be 12.67 into 10 to the power 6 mm per 4. This is global moment of inertia about axis xx. Now if I calculate the moment of inertia about yy, again same igyy plus ah square. Now ig, again since equal angle section, 6.335 into 10 to the power 6 plus area of the member 2921 into h. Now if you see the difference in the local axis yy and global axis yy, that is the h. So h here is 40.8 mm. So 40.8 mm the square. Again, this is only due to one angle. So since I have a two angle, so I am going to multiply with the 2. Iyy, which I am getting, is 22.395 into 10 to the power 6 mm per 4. Okay, now I got Ixx and Yy. Whichever is least, that is where the buckling is going to happen. So here the least moments of inertia is about the axis xx, 12.67 into 10 to the power 6 mm per 4. And so the radius of gyration, minimum radius of gyration, which is equal to square root of I minimum upon area. So I minimum is 12.67 into 10 to the power 6 upon area 2921. Again, you have two angles, so I am multiplying with 2. Now, if you calculate, then the minimum radius of gyration comes out to be 46.57 mm. This is the minimum radius of gyration for the given numerical. Now the second numerical is, in the above question, find the safe compression load carrying capacity. So again, the connection is like this. This is the gusset plate and we have angle connected back to back on one side of the gusset plate, and we found that axis xx has the minimum moment of inertia. So that is 12.67 into 10 to the power 6 mm per 4, and R minimum, Rx is the R minimum. So R minimum at the axis xx is 46.57 mm. So this we got from the previous numerical. Now we need to find what is the load carrying capacity of this given column. Desired load carrying capacity of this given column. Sorry, safe load carrying capacity of this column. So you need to identify safe load carrying capacity. Okay, so what else given? They have given that the length of strut as, sorry, this is meter. Length of strut as 2.4 meter. So the total length of strut is 2.4 meter. First, we need to find out what is the effective length of strut. For whatever the compression member given, you need to find the effective length. If you go back to the topic which we have discussed in the previous lecture, where the double angle discontinuous strut connected back to back on one side of the gusset plate. For that, the L effective is equal to L for this section, one side of the gusset plate. L effective is equal to total length. So effective length is total length 2.4 meter. So let me write it in mm, 2400 mm. Now I know the length. Now I need to find the slenderness ratio. Slenderness ratio lambda. Slenderness ratio is L effective upon least radius of gyration or corresponding radius of gyration. Now we are concerned about minimum radius of gyration because that is where the buckling is going to happen, or that is the axis on which the load carrying capacity is minimum, the axis x. If you take the other axis, moment of inertia is more on other axis, and also the load carrying capacity is more in this axis. But whichever is weaker, that is where the failure is going to happen, and the strength at that axis is the design strength or safe strength of that given compression member. So we always concerned about the minimum. So L effective by R minimum is the slenderness ratio. Effective length is 2400 mm and radius of gyration is 46.57 mm. So again, if you see, the slenderness ratio is unitless. Okay, the value is 51.54. That is the slenderness ratio. Okay, now we got a slenderness ratio of the given compression member. So whenever we calculate slenderness ratio of a compression member, you have to always check with the maximum permissible value. Again, if you go back to IS 800 in table number 3, we have maximum value of effective slenderness ratio. First, if the compression member is subjected to dead load and imposed load. Imposed load is nothing but live load. If the compression member is subjected to dead and imposed load, then the slenderness ratio should not be more than 180. And if you go back to this 3, the same compression member subjected to earthquake and wind load, lateral load, earthquake and wind load, lateral load, then the slenderness ratio should not exceed 250. So, but in our numerical, they have not given or whether our member is subjected to dead load, live load alone, or even it is subjected to earthquake. It is not clear in our numerical. So let's assume our member is subjected to dead load and live load. Assume member is subjected to dead and live load. So in this situation, the value of lambda we got is 51.54. 51.54. That should not be greater than 180. And of course, it is not greater than 180. So the given section is safe against buckling. Safe against buckling. So it doesn't mean that this column won't fail in buckling. Yes, if you apply the load which is more than its strength, then this column is going to buckle. but for its strength, it is not gonna buckle. It is the safe against buckling. And also, if the lambda of any given section exceeds 180 or any value, suppose if the member is subjected to earthquake and wind, it should not exceed 250. If the slenderness ratio of given cross section exceeds 180 or 250, then what should you do? We need to revise the section and we need to make the slenderness ratio down below the maximum limit. So that correction has to be done if it exceeds the maximum given slenderness ratio. Okay, now we have calculated our slenderness ratio, that is 51.54, and we know area of our member is 2 times 2929 mm square, because two angle connected back to back on same side of the gusset plate. We need to find what is the design compressive strength, PD. So design compressive strength is area into design compressive stress. We know area is 2 into 2921 mm square. We have to calculate what is the design compressive stress, FCD. If you want to calculate FCD, either you can use this equation or you can use table 9. And in table 9, we have 4 different tables: 9A, 9B, 9C and 9D. Which table I need to refer? To refer the table, we need to know what is the buckling class of given section. So we have buckling class alpha for buckling class A, buckling class B, buckling class C and D. If you are substituting in equation, then we need to know this exact value. But if you are going to use the table to calculate the design compressive stress, only thing you need to know is under which class my given section is going to buckle. Whether it is going to buckle in class A or class B or class C or class D. If I know that, then I can use corresponding table and I can find FCD directly from the table. And if I know FCD, then I'll substitute here, I'll get the design strength of given compression member. To identify the buckling class, we need to refer table number 10, buckling class of given cross section. Now our cross section is not rolled I section, it's not welded I section, it is not hollow section either, and it is not welded box section, it is not channel, angle, T and solid section. See here it is single angle section, it is not built up section. Okay, so for built up members, see here they have given two I section combined together acts as a single column. But in our case, it's not about I. We have a two angle connected back to back, which is also built up section because we have built two sections together. And even if you build two channels together to act as a single member, this is also a built up section. So our concern is about the built up section. For built up section, the buckling class is C. No matter which axis it is going to buckle, the buckling class is C. So that means we need to use table number 9C to find my design compressive stress FCD. Now I have table number 9C from IS 800 2007, and in table number 9C we have two data. One is yield stress of the material which I am using, and the one is slenderness ratio. Yield stress is 250 because we are always using mild steel as a structural steel member. So its yield stress is 250. The slenderness ratio for our given member is 51.54. But we don't have 51.54 here. So we have only 50 and 60. So what to do? Shall we take the value of 50? No, it should not be like that. So whatever the value corresponding to 51, we have to take only that value. So how to take it? So simple. Let's do the linear interpolation. Now before doing linear interpolation, let's note down the value of FCD corresponding to 50 and 60. So my slenderness ratio is 51, so I'm going to take 50 and 60. Then for 50, yield stress of 250, the value is 183. Then for 60, the value is 168. Okay, let me write that table here. So this is my yield stress of the material, 250 Newton upon mm square, mild steel. And here is the slenderness ratio. So I have value for 50, that is 183, and I have value for 60, that is 168. So this value in the table is the design compressive stress FCD. Now I need to know what is the value of design compressive stress for 51.54. What is the value of design compressive stress FCD? So to do that, we need to do linear interpolation. So let me do the linear interpolation. FCD is 183 minus 183 minus 169 upon 10 multiplied with the difference between 50 and 51.54, that is 1.54. So the value I am getting is 180.69 Newton upon mm square. This is my value of FCD. See, whenever you find the value of FCD, you have to always check whether the value of FCD which you found is less than or equal to Fy by gamma m naught. So it has to be less than Fy by gamma m naught. Otherwise, you need to take this as the FCD value. So Fy is 250 upon gamma m naught is 1.1, so which is 227.27 megapascal. So 180.69 is less than 227. So no problem, we can consider 180.67 as the design compressive stress FCD. But one thing you need to remember is whenever you calculate FCD by the linear interpolation, you have to always check whether the value that we have calculated is right or wrong. See how to check? See, let's go back to this table. For 50, the value of FCD is 183. For 60, the value of FCD is 169. So for 51.54, which is close to 50, so that means the FCD, whatever the value you are getting, it is also has to be close to 183. Then if you look the value, it is 180.69. So it is rightly matching with the concept. And then second one is it should not exceed 183, because from 50 to 60 slenderness ratio, the value of FCD is decreasing. The value of FCD is decreasing. And for 51, the value has to be less than 183. It should not be more than 183. See, those things we need to check whenever you calculate FCD. So this linear interpolation can be done in so many other ways. So one among them is using calculator. The calculator which you have, you can use that to calculate FCD. The linear interpolation can be done directly, or else you can follow this manual linear interpolation. So now we got FCD and we know area. If you substitute, you will get the design compressive stress. Let's do that. So design compressive stress PD, which is equal to AE into FCD. So AE is 2 times 2921 mm square into FCD 180.69 Newton upon mm square. So whenever I substitute value, I'll make sure that the value I'm substituting is in the same unit value. So So that is why this is also in mm square and the stress is also in Newton upon mm square. So the value which I will get from this equation is directly in Newton. So to get kilonewton, I'll divide the value which I am getting from this equation by 1000. So value I got is 1055.6 kilonewton. Now this is only design compressive stress. In the question, I have been asked to find what is the safe compression load carrying capacity. Safe load carrying capacity. So we already know that IS 800 is always based on limit state method. So in limit state method, all the design is for the factor load or design load. Let me write like this: factor load or design load are equal to design load, which is equal to factor of safety 1.5 into working load or safe load. Now we know what is our design compressive stress. If you divide that by 1.5, we will get safe load or the working load. So the safe load or the working load, let's name it as a PS, safe load, which is equal to design load upon or load factor 1.5. So 1055.6 upon 1.5, which is equal to 703.73 kilonewton. This is the answer. Now we got the safe load carrying capacity of the given column section, that is 703.73 kilonewton.